Welcome to Amazing Indiana Music Stories.
My first memories of music, my father was a bass player, and I'm the youngest of 7, and he had us all playing instruments. And my mother was an avid radio listener, and back in the day, Jobim was the popular tunes on the radios. So really both of them turned me on to an array of music. Of course, my father being the conductor turned me on to classical music and Broadway shows, and being a jazz bass player himself, we used to go listen to him at the Surrey Inn in Columbus, Indiana. And so the palette of exposure of styles and genres was endless. And I just felt like a kid in a candy shop wanting to participate in all of it. And of course, the violin goes everywhere. And then the electric, even further. I think I started playing violin when I was about 7 years old, and being the youngest of 7, it was a big deal. My sister gave me the violin. It was like a coronation almost. My time had come that I could join the rest of the family. So every Christmas we'd all play together in our little family orchestra doing Christmas tunes, and I just never stopped. Got turned on to so many different styles. Fiddle playing, classical music, and then I realized you could plug it in. And that changed my life. My influences with stretching the parameters of playing a violin came from a range of places. Probably the Paul Winter Consort and David Darling on cello was the first influence that gave me the imagination that I could play in an alternative way. Jean Ponty, of course, I got turned on to in college when I was studying classical at IU, but I never at that time really thought I would be going a different route until I met Royce Campbell. And he shared with me a number of his original compositions, and I had some ideas. For original music, I was doing recording sessions around town and exposed to a lot of different kind of pop, smooth jazz styles, and just started getting his help on how to get that written down, how to get my ideas conveyed. And so we put together a band, and 2 years later went to Japan. When I think back on who really influenced my musical intentions, of course it would first and foremost be my father, and his sharing so many different styles of music and inviting me to be open-hearted and open-minded. And I do this open-hearted here and open-minded here on purpose, because it is the mind-body connection of being inviting to all different styles. It was in college I got turned on to Jean Ponty, but also Darol and his playing new grass, which is kind of a jazz grass. It just really, really rocked my world, what he was doing with the violin. And coincidentally, later, it was actually in the year 2000, I invited Darol to Indianapolis when I produced a national conference on improvisation on the violin. And he and Barbara Higbie got reunited and gave a concert, and then coincidentally later on Barbara moved back to town, and she and I got to do those concerts together, and I got to pretend to be Darol Anger playing those original songs. It was awesome. But also, I have to say, who else influences me is pretty much whoever I'm playing with in the moment. I've been so fortunate playing electric violin, all original music with no vocals in the middle of Indiana. My goodness, who gets to do that? Indianapolis has been so receptive in taking in a whole new sound and style of playing. Of course, I surrounded myself with the best players I could find. That is imperative. But I've represented Indianapolis to visiting dignitaries and politicians, and just letting people know there's more than corn and saxophone going on in Indiana, and that the genre of jazz is not a small world of music. It's a small word, but it's a large world of music and smooth jazz. And my goodness, I coined my sound party jazz because it's just happy. The idea is to make people feel good. And by gosh, we have over the years. It's been just amazing. I'm just so grateful. When it comes to musical styles and the evolution of how it changes over time, it really, for me, boils down to purpose. There is a reason that some people perpetuate the past and archive the history of that particular sound from a specific era. But then there are those of us who stretch the rules and parameters, and we give ourselves permission to do something different. What's most important to me, however, is that those worlds can collide. I am not an advocate of separatism. I think the arts in general are an opportunity to bring people together, no matter what age, no matter what culture or background. Inclusivity is the permission that the arts give us. So say the blues, down and dirty, straight ahead blues, just the genre as it was always played. I want to hang in that, even though my approach might be a little bit different. I think the colliding of those two worlds makes for a beautiful world. Oh my, when I found out I was on the cover of Larry Goshen's latest book, I was as surprised as anybody, honored and grateful. And of course, knowing Larry as long as I have, we got introduced way back in the 90s, and being the photographer he took a liking to this violin. And I think reaching for the high note was symbolic for all musicians who are just striving to create the most optimum that they can be. In my case, it's for others. Servitude is what my music is really all about. Who's it for and why am I playing it? And as a matter of fact, after all these years, it's become imperative that I continue sharing out of gratitude. So I actually started a not-for-profit called Arts with a Purpose. And now we take the arts to audiences that don't have access to the arts. And I'm talking all disciplines, but a lot of music as well, and to all ages, lifelong learning, and trying to reach those 2-year-olds before they grow up and don't have exposure to a broad palette of sounds. We teach them Duke Ellington C-Jam blues when they're 2, but we say bye-bye, 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 bye-bye. You know, if I had any words of wisdom or advice for a beginning student, regardless of whether they want to have a career or not, it would be don't stop playing, ever, never. Because playing an instrument is meditative and emotional. It's reflective. It's everything we all need for good mental health, quite frankly. As far as a career would go, what would my advice be is never say no. Embrace all opportunities. And of course, you need self-respect. But on the other hand, again, out of servitude, why not share, even though it's not necessarily a gig or an environment that you would normally imagine yourself playing? Because I can tell you out of firsthand experience that sometimes you walk away all the better for it. And you never knew you would have been had you not gone. My idea is I want to play anywhere I can, everywhere I can, all kinds of music as long as I can until I can't. I mean, is this the high note right here? Or wait, no, it's here. It's, and then you have harmonics. And those are even higher than that highest note. I'm going to be playing with a big band coming up this month, singing with them as well as playing. And over time, I realized I could sing and play at the same time. That's, to me what reaching for the high note is stretching your own parameters and saying just how far can you go. I had a mad love affair with Brazilian jazz. I never knew it existed. I didn't know who Jobim was that I was listening to as a young girl. But boy, do I know Jobim and more, and singing a few in Portuguese too. It's a constant, endless journey. I'd love for my legacy, my musical legacy associated with my name, CathyMorris.com, to be one that would raise the positive energy in a room. My music is totally for serving an audience, no matter who they are, and bringing to them an accessibility, a permissibility to be themselves. You do you, I'll do me, and let's come together and have a party.